we want to see the change in the ecosystem. If you're an entrepreneur anywhere in this country and you have a good idea and you're able to create social good, you need to be able to find that support, both financial and otherwise. And our mission is to bring together the investors, pool together the capital, create flexible, innovative financing models so we can finance and back our Filipino entrepreneurs.
According to a research by Villgro Philippines, as MSMEs constitute 99% of all businesses, 60% of registered SMEs are actually women-owned. But despite the growing presence of Filipino women entrepreneurs driving economic growth, support for them remains insufficient, culturally, structurally, and more importantly, financially. Joining us now to talk about bridging the funding gap for women is Priya Thachadi. She is CEO of Villgro Philippines and co-founder of Impact Pioneers Network. Priya, wonderful for you to join us this morning. Hi.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Mimi.
All right, so let's begin with setting the record straight. What is the difference between impact investing and VCs and loans?
Yeah, absolutely. So impact investing is fairly newer as a sector, but it is really blending business with doing good. So impact investors seek financial returns like any other investors, but they also seek both social or environmental benefits as well through their investment.
Mm-hmm. And that's different from philanthropy, which is really just dole outs, and loans, which doesn't care the purpose of those loans.
Absolutely. So I think philanthropy, of course, which is very big here in the Philippines and in the region, is really supporting it through initiatives, the poorest of the poor, and lots of initiatives, which is really important. But now we've seen something that is in between philanthropy and traditional investing, and that is this emerging sector called impact investing. And Philippines is the second largest market in Southeast Asia for impact investing.
All right. And why do you think we're ranked at number 2? Is it because we have more women needing or more sectors needing impact investments? Or is it because there's more awareness here or more people are willing to put their money down in this kind of country?
Right. So I think it's really the opportunity. So, of course, Indonesia continues to be the largest market. So within impact investing, investors could be investing in specifically with a gender lens, so supporting businesses that are women-led or businesses that impact women and girls directly, through products or services. And Philippines, again, is the second largest market. I think because of the amazing opportunity, the truth is, like what you were saying earlier, we do have hundreds of thousands of women-led businesses, and the opportunities that they are providing across different sectors is quite immense. So that's why I think also, given that the Philippines does reasonably well on the gender index, I think people do see this as a market that is growing. And there is a lot of opportunity here. Investing is still quite new in the startup and the entrepreneurial landscape. But I think the last few years have shown that we are as competitive market. And that's where we are seeing far more interest, both from, venture capital and more commercial tech investment, but also in impact investment as well.
You mentioned number 2. Actually, the World Economic Forum says, when you look at the picture on how the world is doing on gender equality, it's actually mixed. Well, we are going in the right direction. The moves are incremental, small, far and few in between. And they say, at the current rate of progress, the report says it will take us 131 years to reach full parity between men and women. I wonder, how does the Philippines stack up? Because in 2017, Philippines and New Zealand topped the APAC list. How do we stack up in terms of women participation in the economy and opportunities?
So I think, there is always good news and not so good news or bad news. But the good news is that we've been consistently doing well in terms of women's participation in the workforce. Women's roles in leadership has improved across the corporate sector. We do see, even in the startup ecosystem, we do see a lot of leadership from, women leaders across different types of organizations. So that's a good news. The not so good news is that the truth is that we are still lagging behind when it comes to the gender gap in financing, right? And this is because the number of women entrepreneurs unlocking financing, even though we have hundreds of thousands doing business, that is still limited. And this means that even though they may be running businesses that are profitable, every year more and more women are starting businesses, but somehow beyond microfinance, where women are still the largest stakeholders in being able to access financing, when we look beyond microfinance, so that would be above 250,000 pesos, in capital, that's when we start seeing a gap. So we are seeing what we call a gap in the missing middle. So there is typically from about $20,000 to about $300,000. That is where women need growth capital to grow their businesses. That's where we are seeing that, we are failing them.
All right. And so enters Impact Pioneers Network. What are you doing for these women? I know that you've launched a year-round initiative that's supposed to offer impact investments. So talk to us about that. I mean, how many women entrepreneurs are you looking to support? What would the qualifications be? How much funding? Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Impact Pioneers Network really came about because we saw this missing middle gap. We saw that there were a lot of amazing entrepreneurs, especially social entrepreneurs who were starting up, but were sort of getting stuck because they didn't get the right type of support to really experiment and test their models to validate it and build it up to scale. And a vast majority of these entrepreneurs are, women-led businesses. So the challenge that, we want to address is that really unlock financing, working with local investors, regional or global investors, to bring capital to these entrepreneurs. So we recently, post our research that you referred to, we identified that there's an immediate urgent gap in providing working capital for women entrepreneurs and other social entrepreneurs to really build that track record to prove that these business models can work. So we launched a working capital facility with an explicit commitment to support majority women-led businesses and also underrepresented founders from around the country. And our goal is to help finance and provide urgent capital so that these businesses can build that track record. Because what happens is that even though they may have the business opportunity, they might have a big order, but they don't have the capital to fulfill those orders. So they're kind of, going in circles, being able to see the opportunity right in front of them, but not being able to accept it. So our goal is over the next 2 years to really focus on building this pipeline of women-led businesses and impact enterprises and be able to provide them this capital. So what we've done is we've actually brought together about 10 lending institutions, both traditional institutions as well as foundations, microfinance banks, and others. We've brought them together with this mission of providing urgent capital to impact enterprises, and our commitment is to support majority women entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm. So can you paint the picture for us more clearly? So as the network, as Impact Pioneers Network, you brought together all of these lenders. Then what happens? Where do you come in? Are you just the facilitator, the conduit that makes it happen? Or are you also putting money out there? Are you backing some of these loans? Are you taking up a stake in these companies that you're investing in?
Right. So currently, through specifically this initiative, the Working Capital Facility, the reason that we've been able to bring together these lenders or investors is really that we've built what we call a blended financing facility that provides very specific incentives to investors to do 3 things. One is, as we all know, a big barrier for small businesses to access financing is collateral. And especially when we look at impact businesses or women-led businesses, they don't have a lot of assets to put up for collateral. So in exchange for the incentives and the us backing these loans. The lenders are able to provide collateral-free loans, provide flexible terms. So what typically happens is that, especially debt financing can be structured in a way that is not really matched to the cash flow of the business or, the type of struggles that the business is facing. So what we are asking in exchange for us backing these loans is really to be able to provide these loans to the entrepreneurs collateral free with flexible terms and of course a competitive interest rate so that we can really build a strong pipeline of success stories and really give these entrepreneurs the best chance to succeed.
What do you have in it? What does the network have going for it? What do you get in exchange?
So we are a mission-driven organization, Mimi. So
non-profit?
For us, so we are set up as a for-profit legally, but we do operate as a non-profit, as a non-governmental organization with an explicit mission to support social entrepreneurs. So entrepreneurs who are directly creating a social
Correct.
or climate impact. And of course, our commitment is to support majority women entrepreneurs. So we are driven primarily by that mission. So as a mission-driven organization, we want to see the change in the ecosystem. If you're an entrepreneur anywhere in this country and you have a good idea and you're able to create social good, you need to be able to find that support, both financial and otherwise. And our mission is to bring together the investors, pull together the capital, create flexible, innovative financing models so we can finance and back our Filipino entrepreneurs.
Sorry, I have to push a little bit on this. So you're not getting a stake in the companies you're backing, correct? No stake.
That's right. So
and you're not getting a part of their revenues as well?
No. So as an intermediary, we are not directly earning through the deal. So we are connecting the existing investors to very specific deals. So I think one of the biggest gaps on the investor side, Mimi, is that there is a big cost of, doing diligence in actually finding these entrepreneurs, right? And that's one of the big reasons that investors don't want to provide small ticket size loans or equity investments to small businesses, because it takes the same amount of effort if you're going to deploy $1 million or if you're going to deploy $100,000. So there is a big barrier, and one of the big reasons that small businesses don't get financing is that cost of diligence is very high. So as an intermediary, we are looking for the entrepreneurs, helping them prepare their financials, getting everything ready. We are doing preliminary due diligence, and then we are connecting them to our investors that we've brought together as a group. And then they sort of directly invest. And that's specifically what we're doing at the moment.
And that's how
we're seeing this opportunity.
All right, because earlier you did say that, impact investing, you're an investor, you're seeking returns as well. So is that how you seek returns, by providing these services?
Yeah. So I think we have two models. So one is that, as the Impact Pioneers Network, our goal is to bring together and unlock local financing. So our role is really to work with both sides, the demand and supply, right? Work with entrepreneurs and the investors. But then we also do direct investing. But right now we found that there's a lot of local capital with good intention that is not reaching the entrepreneurs. So we are very laser focused on making this connection and making sure that if there's a good entrepreneur seeking capital, we're able to connect them to the investors.
All right, I'm actually looking at your website, and it says there that your members are high net worth individuals, family offices, corporations, and foundations that believe in the power of doing good. How much money exactly are we talking about looking for good businesses to park their cash in? Would you say there's more supply than there is demand?
So that's really the kind of the bittersweet truth. So if you talk to investors, what you will say is that the investable pipeline looks small. But if you talk to entrepreneurs are like, they're all looking for capital. So that's where, this very sad sort of gap is. So what are the challenges? So on the entrepreneur side, number one is information asymmetry. They don't even know who are these impact investors or any type of investors. They don't know what type of financing is really suitable. Should I take debt? Should I take equity? Should I find, some other form of flexible financing? And they may be really out of the loop of the network. So even if they know who they are, they may not be able to connect with them. They may not also, a bit of an investments literacy gap about what financial documents do I need to prepare. One of the biggest challenges that we see is that when we start talking to entrepreneurs and then we ask for some basic financial documents, unfortunately many times they don't have it. So then they have to go back and for maybe work on it for 1 or 2 months, and so what happens to that urgent capital need? So these are ongoing problems on the sort of supply, on the demand side. And on the supply side for investors, they're used to investing in a certain way. And so to be flexible, to change their systems up becomes very, very difficult. And then the cost of then doing that diligence it becomes difficult. And that's where we sort of step in to say that we're going to work on both sides and try to bridge this gap. Because otherwise, we'll keep going in circles and 5 years later, we'll find ourselves in the same position. And that's what we want to avoid, because we do see the brilliance and the opportunity of many of these early stage businesses.
Priya, I wonder, because I know that your initial target was to impact or to fund 100 impact enterprises in the country over a 5-year period. What's your track record like? How many impact companies have you actually found and matched with funders? And what's the success rate? Because when you talk about startups, there's a pretty steep failure rate there, right?
Of course. I think that's, I think that is sort of the truth, that many startups will fail. And I think that's absolutely okay. As, ecosystem builders, our job is to try and fund as many good opportunities that we think these business models will make a difference on the ground. And I would say that in any market, 50% or so early stage businesses will fail. I think only about 40% actually make it past year 5. And that's why, you do portfolio investments, right? Like any other form of investments. And I think that's okay. But the truth is that if we don't make those investments, if we don't actually take a bet on these entrepreneurs, then we're not going to even get to that 50% who might succeed. So for us, our goal is still, to get to that 100 over the next 5 years. So in the last sort of 6-8 months that we've been working on this, we've gotten to about 10% of that. So we hope that now that we are out there and we are sharing that, we're able to provide the information that, hey, if you do need capital as an early stage business, please do come to us. And we are doing all of this curation. We are hoping that, we'll be able to accelerate that faster over the next 4 years. That's our hope. But I think the good news is that we are seeing more and more entrepreneurs in the pipeline. Now we just need to be able to get to them finding us finding them, and helping them prepare to raise capital. And on the investor side, we've got to keep them interested and activated to continue to support impact entrepreneurs.
Priya, one final question, and this is where it hits home. Is there any case study that stands out for you? You did say that you've hit 10% of your target funding 100 impact companies. Is there an impact company in particular that stands out for you? A story, a narrative that you think could be the poster child of impact investing in the Philippines?
Sure. So we've been, among those that we have funded so far, it's got, I would say in terms of sectors, it's a mix of agri, clean energy, specifically, and circular economy businesses. So some, I would say they're all very early, but we are taking some of our bets. So a couple of the businesses, for example, one of the companies that we've recently enabled funding for is called SUDS. It's a circular economy business that is changing the way that we use cleaning supplies and materials. So they are fully sustainable, products, so dissolvable hand washes, laundry pods that, can be used. 100%, dissolvable. So big contribution of our country is towards that single-use plastic, which is exactly what they are addressing. So it's a, it's a women-led business as well.
All right.
So that's a great example of a very early stage company. They've been around for the last few years, but they've really seen more traction, say, in the last 6 months. And our financing is going to help them, bring in their inventory and reach the right customers.
All
so
right.
we are hoping that more and more of these examples will encourage other entrepreneurs to keep at it, because it is a very difficult journey to be building and running a business from scratch, especially if you don't come from, a wealthy family, or you may not have family and friends who can be writing you checks. So then you really have to do it on your own.
All right. And on that note, Priya, thank you so much for joining us, for sharing all of these inspiring stories, for the insights, and of course, for what you do for the backbone of this economy, the MSMEs. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much for having me.